Hey, welcome to News Rocky. This is your host, Kevin, coming to you live here from the Pie Hop Studio in downtown Norwich, Connecticut, right above Pie Hops, the restaurant that's taking over downtown. Come down and get your hops, get your pies. Be happy. I don't know what to say. Listen, today's show is going to be The Real McCoy. That's what I'm titling today's show. The Real McCoy, because I'm going to bring you my opinion of the real deal Holyfield, the situation that's taking place in Washington, D.C. as we speak, this now newest impeachment trial that's going to kick off here right at the end of the president's term. His 4 years are up. Less than 10 days left. They want to impeach him. For what and for why? We're going to get into that today on the News Rocky story. We're also going to talk to you about some of the other things that have taken place since 2016. Kind of do a backward sort of look at what is actually going on in Washington, D.C. and across this country. I believe we're all going to agree on a lot of things today. I don't think the Democrats and Republicans, independents, unaffiliated, once you hear my version of my opinion of what's going on, I think we're all going to be getting in the ring together on News Rocky. Hey, welcome back, and here I am, Kevin, your host of News Rocky, and today I wanted to talk to you about the rollback of the last 4 years. What's been going on during this Trump administration? But before we can talk about that, I want to bring up one of the articles from today that is talking about this most recent impeachment trial that is being planned by Mrs. Pelosi.
Hill. Democrats are moving at an extraordinary pace, summoning lawmakers back to the Capitol now, still in shock but determined to hold the president accountable for the violence he incited here. A second impeachment vote now imminent. This morning, Democrats are on the cusp of impeaching President Trump again, charging him with incitement of insurrection for urging his supporters to march on the Capitol. Disturbing video showing the violence that unfolded as police attempted to stop the mob without success. We want Trump! This morning, the House Speaker is still holding out hope that the Vice President will remove Trump by invoking the 25th Amendment. But that seems highly unlikely, though Pence has not publicly ruled it out. He and Trump last night speaking for the first time since the siege. If Pence doesn't act within 24 hours, Pelosi says the House will move to impeach, a vote expected as soon as tomorrow.
Every day he's in office, he remains a real and present danger to the country.
And Democrats have the votes to impeach Trump for an historic second time.
Anyone who incites an insurrection should be investigated and prosecuted. No one is above the law.
Some Republicans are also expected to back the move, though most remain opposed. The top Republican in the House, Kevin McCarthy, saying an impeachment at this time would have the opposite effect of bringing our country together. But more Republicans are distancing themselves from Trump. Congressman Madison Cawthorn, a rising star in the party who spoke at the rally right before the riot, egging on the crowd, and later voted to overturn the election results, now says it was a mistake for Trump to urge the crowd to march to the Capitol.
He never should have directed that crowd towards the Capitol building because there was a bad outcome was destined at that point.
Dozens of major businesses are also cutting ties with Trump and his allies. Even his personal friends are taking a step back. New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick turning down the president's invitation to receive the Medal of Freedom, citing the tragic events of last week, saying in a statement, "Above all, I am an American citizen with great reverence for our nation's values, freedom, and democracy. Remaining true to the people, team, and country I love outweigh the benefits of any individual award."
Guys, what we're hearing right now, this opening, I didn't want to give ABC and CBS and CNN and all the rest of these corporate media outlets an opportunity to be speaking when News Rocky wants to talk. And I want you to listen and engage in this conversation. Make sure you're sending in messages so we can respond back to you during this conversation. So we're going to start off with the impeachment trials now in 2021. The impeachment trials now that are going to be attempted because of what's being called this incident that took place last week in the Capitol, where they are saying that the president incited this riot and really directed the crowd to go and do this. Now, I would challenge that very, very few scholars in the world of the criminal justice prosecution world will be able to define whether or not they could convict such claims. Look at it from the perspective of this, guys. If you go backwards, right? Let's go back to 2015. right around the time that Donald J. Trump, the business leader, the successful entrepreneur, the entertainer, and who's the boss, whatever that name was, the show. And this guy, Donald Trump, was bigger than life. People loved him. In fact, Nancy Pelosi, she commented in one video I watched where she actually got a chance to meet with him and said he was very nice. And this was prior to his serving as president. All the other political foes that were around back then. When Donald Trump started talking about, I'm going to run for office, I'm finally going to do it. I'm 70 plus years old. I've been successful. I want to give back to America. Donald Trump realized one thing very quickly, the pushback from the insiders. They didn't want Donald Trump in the sandbox. They didn't want Donald Trump to come into Washington, D.C. and push people around. He's well known for that. His personality is big. His elbows are sharp. And he certainly is not afraid to say what he thinks. And actually, he does what he says. If we look back over the last 4 years, guys, think about it. Right at the same day that he was going through his inauguration, the same day there was plotting and there was planning and there was an action plan for impeachment of this Russian collusion that never existed. It's been proven. The files are open. They're very clear. Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party, along with Barack Obama, the FBI, were corrupt and colluded to frame Donald Trump in 2016. Okay, now, you can sit there and say, Kevin, you're crazy and you're wrong. And now, Democrats, stay with me. Don't run away from the show just yet. You're going to hear me comment about Republicans and the other side of this conversation, which we're not really talking about because we're preoccupied by Nancy Pelosi, Shifty Schiff, Chucky Schumer, and the rest of the clowns down there in Washington, D.C. Oh, throw Mitt Romney in. I'll give you a token. There's your Republican for the team. Guys, this is purely about political corruption. There is no doubt in my mind. Think about it for a moment. Donald Trump comes into office. He's never served as a elected official in any capacity. He wins the presidency. He didn't go to Yale and Harvard. He didn't do the typical political story where you actually go and you fight through the system. You're a state representative like I was. Then you run for Congress, and then you run for this, and you're the people's champion, and you're doing all the things you're doing. The whole time, by the way, they don't want to tell you this. While they're in politics, they're getting very rich, right? Here is the difference. This guy comes in and he has all the money. He doesn't need money. He's not doing it for money. He's doing it because he says he loves America. What happens then in 2016? The public is frustrated. They came off of 2 terms of Barack Obama, who I personally say is a nice guy and I would love to hang out and have a beer with him. I don't agree with his policy. I hated how he was treated. I didn't like how there was racism, purely racism, that was brought to the forefront by many individuals back then during Barack Obama's presidency. Let's claim it for what it is. It was inappropriate then. I don't think it's appropriate now. I don't condone how he was treated. I also don't agree with his policies. Is that okay? Can I not be a racist if I didn't agree with Barack Obama? That's a question for you to answer. I know the answer for me. But why is it that Donald Trump is a racist? Why is it that Donald Trump is a homophobe and he's against anything that has some sort of a topic and current event discussion? It seems like he pushes back on. At least that's the opinion of the folks out there. But who's creating the opinion? Who's creating the narrative? Listen, when you want to get to the real McCoy, when you want to know the truth, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to open your eyes a little wider than they are. You're going to have to accept some of the facts. This is not about Donald Trump taking on the Democratic Party. This is not about Donald Trump coming in and actually even making America great. You know what it's really about? It's about Donald Trump exposing the corruption in politics. And what he has done as a genius, and I don't think he's purposely done this, this is subconscious to him, he was able to expose Nancy Pelosi. He was able to expose each and every one of these, Chuck Schumer, Shifty Schiff. I mean, we can go down the list of all these Democratic operatives and attacks. Hillary Clinton, he exposed her. He also exposed Mitt Romney. He also exposed the, you want to talk about each one of these Democratic people? What about the Bush family? Look back on their history. What is history going to tell you about George W? Did he finish his father's war? Did he cost lives of Americans so he could find happiness in his daddy's lap? That's your Republican. What about the Democrats? What were they out for? Why was it so important that Hillary Clinton should have won that election? Or was it that the Democrats knew that they didn't want Hillary Clinton in office because she was also tainted like her husband? See, when you look back in history, guys, history will tell us what the future is. We knew back in 2016 that this attempt to go and impeach then Donald Trump, the new president, the 45th president of the United States, was unsuccessful. Yes, he was impeached in the House. It's controlled by Democrats, guys. It's not a really big reach. He didn't make it in the Senate, and it's not a big reach. The Senate's controlled by Republicans. See, the politics and the party games that take place in Washington, D.C., we sit on the sidelines and we watch. And we ponder at this, wow, look what's going on, and it's pop and certain circumstance, and they're all up there on their podium, and they're pounding their fist, and they're ready to tell you how they're going to fight for the American people. I dare you to tell me what Nancy Pelosi has fought for. What has Chuck Schumer done for you? Has he done anything? Has he convinced you that he's tough on crime? Now our next president, the 46th president, and he's my president, guys. He's my president. He's your president and my president. And all my Republican friends and conservative folks that want to get mad at me right now, get as mad as you want, because you know what the reality is? See, we cannot justify our behavior if we don't accept our responsibility. See, they didn't say they accepted Donald Trump for 4 years. Yet we sit here and now we're going to say we're not going to accept this guy? As imperfect as the system is, as criminal as the system is, if we don't wake up and realize we can do this if we get together and stop trying to point fingers at each other and stop trying to fight for some other clown that's in Washington, D.C. that doesn't care about the people of this country. You know, I had a conversation with somebody this morning, and we were talking about the show, and we were talking about, hey, you know, how impressive it is that what you're putting together, Kevin, and you're doing this. And I'm like, I don't think I'm doing anything. I don't think I'm doing anything. You know what I'm doing? I'm having a conversation. It's what I've always done. You see, but 4 years ago, think about it, guys, up until about 4, 6, 8 years ago, the people who are out there in the real world, the real people, the blue-collar men and women of this country that make it actually move, they didn't talk about politics. They talked about sports, talked about hunting and fishing, talked about what the Grammys were going to be like on Sunday. They talked about their vacations. Now we are dominated by a political conversation, and you got to ask yourself why. Why is it happening now? Why did Donald Trump inspire all this? Well, let's paint a picture, right? 2015, we remember Trump coming down the escalator, right in the hotel, Melania with him, beautiful picture. He announces he's running. Every commentator on every news source, don't care what platform, said he'll never get the nomination. He will never be president. We could pull up hundreds of hours of that. Didn't matter to him. He got on the stage. Remember, they put him out on the stage, and he's way out on this side. There's 17, 18 people on the stage. And what happens as your ratings go up during these debates, you go more towards the center. Oh, is it the second debate? He was in the middle. And he was kicking the shit out of Jeb Bush on that end, who was all the way on the end. Kicking the shit out of Ted Cruz on that end. Kicking the shit out of Marco Rubio. Each one of them. You know what he did? He took each one of them systematically and exposed them for what they've done in politics. See, I could go and debate a politician all day long. Even though I've served as a politician, one of the things I benefit from is I've always been so stupidly honest that I'm different. You see, that's the point here. He was different. And the people of this country realized, once and for all, it didn't matter if he was a billionaire. It didn't matter if he wants to slap him in the pussy. It didn't matter if he didn't. It doesn't. None of that matters, guys. And I know it enrages. It enrages people. I understand why. But you got to understand, the average everyday person never thought like anyone spoke to them. You know, we talk about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan spoke to me. And maybe I'm a nerd. I was a nerdy kid, and when he spoke, I used to love to listen to his speeches and the words and the way he delivered his comments. It was amazing. I remember Jimmy Carter. I used to love to listen to Jimmy Carter speak, just a peaceful, soft guy. But politics got corrupt. Politics have always been corrupt. But politics have gotten more corrupt. And you got to ask yourself why. You know, you watch the political system and the changes from 2012, 2016, 2021. We have evolved in this country into a political machine. All we talk about is Donald Trump, his administration, his criminal acts, or at least the accusations against him, and how the Democrats are chasing him. It's like watching the Coyote video, the cartoon when I was a kid. They punch in each day. The Democrats, Nancy Pelosi punches in, Donald Trump punches in. They go out into the field, and the Coyote chases the Roadrunner. This is the stupidity that we as Americans are falling for. So when you talk about why are we doing this? Why are we doing this again? I want to hear real reasons less than 10 days away from the end of this president's term. Is it for more than just the purposes of impeachment, since they failed in 2016 to complete the process through the Senate? Do you believe this is more about maybe trying to publicly destroy any opportunities for this president to run again? Do you think it's more about the fear that maybe this president's going to pull the string and allow all the information to flow? There's a lot of speculation that WikiLeaks, Snowden, there's a lot of speculation that Donald Trump, over the next 7 days, is planning to release a lot of information. Information that could be so damning, so damaging to those political insiders. Why do you think they're pushing back so hard? You know, pull up that picture, I think, of the, what I'll call the A-team. We'll call these guys the A-team right here. All right, so we see our typical cast of characters, right? And, you know, this is a good picture to me, and I'm going to tell you why. So you got Nadler there, and I'm not going to body pick on anybody's body. I'm not in perfect shape myself, but I've never seen a body like this guy in my life. He sits down, and his pants touch underneath his chin. I'm not joking with you. We could probably, find a picture of him sitting. Nadler, it's funny shit. But anyways, when you do bring it up, you got Nancy Pelosi. Beautiful blue on. You know, I bet you Nancy was hot back in the day, by the way. I'm just going to throw it out there. I bet you when Nancy got to Washington, D.C., she was a really attractive lady. I think she was stunning. I bet you she's got a lot of experience in Washington, D.C., 30 plus years. Then you look over the shoulder of AOC there, right in this picture. And isn't that cute, that little shifty eye look? Look at that's a creepy dude, right? I mean, there's no doubt right there. I worked in prison, and I have seen plenty of people that creep me out. That's a creepy mother effer right there. Schiff is a creepy dude, okay? Now remember, back in 2016, Shifty, Nadler, Pelosi, they all worked together during the impeachment trials. They were going to put together this unbelievable case of prosecution against the Trump administration. And they took down each person. Started with General Flynn, kept on going down the list, flipping. Were there bad actors around Donald Trump? Sure there were. Were there bad actors around every administration that's ever served in the country? Yes, there is. You see, but selective memory is exactly what the people in power in Washington, D.C. have. Because now what we're hearing about this latest impeachment by these cast of clowns, these cast of characters, we should put makeup on them. That's how funny these people are. Is that they want to impeach him for inspiring this riot that took place. And there is some tragedy in that. There's an officer that was killed. There's other officers that have died from other circumstances, other people that are there who have been injured. This was a problem. There was no way that anyone should have kicked in the doors of our Capitol. It's their Capitol and our Capitol. And that shouldn't have happened. And I wish the president would have come out and said, I want you to march up there to the Capitol peacefully, with no violence, and let them hear you. See, those simple little words, we wouldn't be sitting here with the conversation of impeachment today. Or would we? You see, I don't care what he said. I don't care what he did. I don't care what this cast of characters can prove or not. It doesn't matter. They are doing this to play the political game. It's only so they can try to win. It's not about actually the best for America. It's not for the good of the country. Although pretend to hide around these pretty little words and this significance to this situation, we have to address this. The American people want us to. The American people are so frustrated. You know, they talk about the 80 million that support Donald Trump. I think that number is going up. I'm going to throw it out here, folks. You are making a martyr out of this guy. Nancy, keep doing what you're doing. Chucky, keep saying what you're saying. Naylor, keep going to the buffet. Schiff, stay off those terrible porn sites. Didn't talk about AOC. You know what I'm going to give AOC credit for? She, out of the entire bunch, the most recent articles or anything on the news I was able to see, AOC came right out and said, we need to impeach him so he can't run again for president. She factually said, so he cannot run again for president. So not only do we want to suppress, why don't we get to the First Amendment, and if we can look at what I'm talking about, I'm going to tie it together. AOC actually really summarized what this is about. You see, we the people of this country have been guaranteed rights. We've been guaranteed rights. The Constitution is clear. The ability for us to have freedom of speech in the First Amendment should be one that we will be willing to die for, and many Americans have. They've been willing to die for their country. So we can have this conversation right here. So we can have people run for office and speak freely, even if we don't agree with them. Do you have to like someone? Do you have to support someone? I don't personally like Donald Trump. I don't know Donald Trump. But I like the president who was willing to kick in the doors at the Washington, D.C. Swamp Saloon and start smacking these dirty, underhanded politicians in the chin, letting them know each and every time that we are not going to take it anymore. So you see the First Amendment? You see what it says? It's pretty simple. Congress shall make no law representing an establishment or religion prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridge the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble. These are guaranteed rights that this impeachment hearing is now going to go forward with. The First Amendment gave the ability for those people to assemble, just like we saw this past summer. Do you guys have a memory? This is where you talk about selective memory. Nancy and the rest of the team has selective memory. Why? What happened over the summer? We had riots, and listen, the social issue of the day that needs to be discussed is the racial divide in this country, and I am glad we're finally having it in open. We don't have to hide behind a corner or whisper behind our friend's back and not tell a joke that maybe you think is offensive. Actually out there now. People are being forced to talk about it, and that's a good thing. But the bad part about this is think about it. Through the entire summer, the worst summer probably in the history of this country, we had the COVID issue, we had George Floyd, and what did we have after that? We had riots. We had riots across the country. We had a good conversation with some folks yesterday, a great call, a great show, and we talked about these were actually individuals who actually go out and they actually organize events I wouldn't call them riot, but they actually go out and they exercise their First Amendment right against the police. Now, I don't agree with the topic or the subject, but I will fight to the end of the day to make sure those voices are heard. Will you? Can you? Do you have it in you to be honest enough? Or you're just going to summarize this as a bunch of bullshit because you know what? Focus back on Donald Trump, right? Follow the bouncing ball, guys. Because here's what it comes down to each and every day. We go back to 2016. We started actually right into 15. We're coming out of when he ran against all the king's men. You had 17, 18 Republicans, and Donald Trump comes out victorious. Right, mind you, what I said earlier. The national corporate media said then he'll never be president. And he is. Now, he gets in office day one, and they're already planning the impeachment trials for this supposed Russian gate. You know, when files are actually released, how are people going to remember Donald Trump? I think they're going to remember Donald Trump for one thing. He exposed the corruption in Washington, D.C. Now, you want to claim that he's a terrible human being? I'm not even going to have that discussion. I'm talking about the presidency. I'm not talking about him personally. See, now we get mixed up on that because I've heard the same comment. Well, I like Bill Clinton as the president, but I didn't like his behavior. But you gave him a pass. See, I heard that from you Democrats, you liberals. You'll defend Bill Clinton. Oh, all he did is get a blowjob. Oh, all he did was have sex. All he did was cheat on his wife. Listen, happens every day. Lots of people are guilty of it. It's not the point. He lied to the American people. But you accepted it. You accepted it. You condoned it, and you endorsed it. And you know what that says about somebody's character? Pretty low. Pretty low. Now, why is it easy for somebody like me to jump and defend Donald Trump's presidency? I'm going to tell you why. Because I've witnessed politics from the inside and behind the curtain. I've seen what it's like when the games are played. Right here in Connecticut, I had a chance to serve the state of Connecticut, and I was honored to serve the people in the State House as a Republican state representative. I knew day one when I hit that floor that I didn't see a future in that position for me. And I'll tell you why. I was told by my own leadership and by the ranking file of people serving and by the system itself that you have no chance to do anything this year. Keep running for office. You'll probably get some opportunities down the road. See, unless you're somebody that brings a lot of noise, if you're just going to try to play with the system's going to play you, sit you in the corner, tell you to go raise some more money for your party so you can play again and try to get elected again. The system is so broken. We talk often about term limits. I think Donald Trump has actually inspired this conversation once again, inadvertently or not. Term limits are important. You know, we talk about why is this such a conversation today? Why do you want to rant about this, Kevin? Why is this a topic that you want to? Because I want to go over the history. You know, if we can bring over the picture again, we have AOC sitting there. I want to talk about AOC, and I want to talk about the importance of what she has. Now, most recently, as I said, she was well noted for saying we have to impeach the president. AOC is the younger lady right over Nancy's shoulder, right where Schiff is creepily staring at her. Right there, that's AOC, the congresswoman. Now, she is a progressive. She is a socialist in many ways. I don't agree with her policies. I don't agree with her politics of where she wants to go. But you know what I do agree with? Her opportunity to be heard. See, it goes back to the First Amendment. People have the right to be heard. People have the right to assemble. People have the right to support who they want. You see, AOC, she stood up for that, and she actually fought against her own party. She's actually come out several times against the lady in blue there, Nancy Pelosi, and she's kicked her in the ass a few times, and actually, quite frankly, has straightened her shit out. So I give her credit. I don't agree with her policies. I don't agree with her vision of America, but I agree with the fact that she is afforded the right to exercise her First Amendment rights. You see, this is the problem we have. You're justifying Democrats and liberals. You're justifying your hatred for an individual. And you're ignoring the law. And your inalienable rights. You're ignoring the fact that these rights are given to you and guaranteed to you by a constitution. You can't pick and choose who you gets them. You can't pick and choose who's your guy or not. You see, we have to afford that same right for somebody like AOC or Donald Trump or Nancy Pelosi. Criticism can come. You can critique all day long, but you can't just hate because you hate. You got to have a reason why. And if you're in Congress today and you're leading the fight against the impeachment of this president, I want to hear more than just we have to remove him. If you're an insider like AOC and you're going to say, we have to remove him and impeach him so he cannot run again. And by the way, that's not actually true. We'll get into that in a minute. That's actually not true. He can. He's been impeached, but he hasn't been sentenced. When you're sentenced, it's a different story. So let's just put it out there. This is it's all for theater. It is all to draw more attention so we can tune into this. And you know, it's interesting to me, we're watching Republicans, as in the opening report, we're watching Republicans and supporters of Donald Trump scurry away. There was a congressman right there, a new congressman who stepped up and spoke at the function and now regrets saying or supporting the concept of Trump telling the folks to go storm the Capitol. Now, storm the Capitol is a word that I don't want to be quoted. I haven't heard him say that. Those are terms that are being put out there. But corporate media, remember, they have a really, really sneaky way of sliding words in or giving you just pieces of news so you believe it's going that way. News Rocky, we talk about fake news all the time. I can tell you that the fake news created on both sides of this conversation of Trump, by Trump, for Trump, against Trump, any way you want to look at it, has created an entire industry. Heck, News Rocky's here because of it. You know, we probably wouldn't have thought of the concept of News Rocky taking on fake news and news of the day if it hadn't had so much driving energy. So why are we here now? Why is this impeachment so important? The impeachment, quite frankly, is important because it's about control. 80 million people came out and supported Donald Trump. Mathematically impossible for him to have lost an election, but he did. Corruption? I'm not going to sit here and debate it. Do I think some things took place? I definitely know it is. I know corruption happens in politics. Do I think the votes were somehow scandal? Probably some. It might be even for the Republican vote too. Might be for only the Democrat vote. I don't know. But there's a guarantee of this. Each one of the electoral processes in all the states in this country, every Secretary of State has a policy for corruption. Why do they have a policy? Because they believe it's going to take place. They know it takes place each and every election. So why is it a hard reach to imagine if the same people pushing the impeachment hearings back in 2016 about Russian collusion, they blamed Russia for changing the outcome of the election? Why is it so crazy that the claims of this president and his election and his campaign team that there was corruption in 2020? Why is it so crazy? You know why it's crazy? Because you hate the person. It doesn't matter if there's facts. It doesn't matter if you have knowledge. You hate the person. You're disingenuous. You are disingenuous. And you know what? Until we can wake up and look in a mirror and realize the facts are the facts and the reality is the reality. Donald Trump might not be your cup of tea. But if you think for one moment that the way he's being treated is about his politics, it's not about his politics. It's about the people who control politics and their fear that he's awoken a lion. Are you ready to be a lion? Are you ready to stand up and fight back? And I'm talking to you Democrats too. I don't care if you support Donald Trump or not. We as people need to realize it is time for us to stand up and say enough is enough. I don't need to have a Harvard degree congressman telling me what I need to do in my life. No, in fact, you know what, Mr. Congressman or Congresswoman or whoever you are that runs for office? You work for us. We don't work for you. But yet in the country we have today, we have so relied upon this elitist attitude of Nancy Pelosi, of the now going to be 46th president, Joe Biden, 48 years in office, a professional politician. We're relying on these people to shape the structure of our future. I ask you this, if you're genuine. Think about the history of presidents as far back as you can remember. What's your fondest memory of one president? Let's talk it through. I will tell you that one of my favorite memories is when Barack Obama came out and commented about the taking into custody and the killing of Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the 2001, the 9/11 attacks on America. That probably speaks out to me as the most important presidential delivery that I've ever heard. It was a victory for us, and maybe that's not the turn the other cheek concept of a Christian, but it is the concept of this country, because we stand up and we fight back, and we're not going to let corruption win. You see, but when the corruption is being claimed by the corrupt, who's winning the battle? Think about it. These people have been in office for so long, and here comes in Donald Trump in his Stetson hat, his big boots, and he kicks that front, the doors swing open in the saloon in Washington, as I called it, the Swamp Saloon down there in D.C., and he's like, bam, smack, get out of the way, bam, smack, you did this. You know what? He's rude. He's crude. He's obnoxious. He's conceited. He's the smartest guy in his mind in the room. But you know what? The guy's never changed, man. Never changed. The only thing that's changed is the people who are running away from him now. You're really spineless. You're the spineless worms because all you care about is surviving. And I hope they find a hook and put you on it and throw you in so a big mouth bass swallows your ass. You traitors. That's to the Republicans who want to say, well, screw him now. Now, you Democrats and the liberals over there, the people who don't want to be dominated by some kind of title, that's fine. And you're going to sit there and go, oh, Kevin, you can't be like that. That's mean. No, it ain't mean. It ain't mean because it's self-preservation. This is what's going on. We're watching it across this country today. Since last Wednesday, a week ago today, when we sat in this very studio and we talked about all the things that were going on in the country. You know what? Where have we gone from there? The day it happened, impeachment was being talked about. You don't think it was planned? By the way, there's a very good report coming in that the FBI had knowledge of troublemakers disguising themselves as Trump supporters. That's being fished out right now as we speak. See, but it won't matter to you. What doesn't matter? If you hate Donald Trump, it doesn't matter. You're disingenuous. You're able to live with the fact you just hate somebody, so you can never give an opportunity for say, okay, there's something good. You know, often when I have guests on, especially folks that don't agree with our policies here or my policies or where I stand, and I don't agree with theirs, and that's okay because we're having a conversation. I often ask, can you tell me the worst thing Donald Trump did? Very easy. Typically, 99% of the time, somebody comes right out. They know exactly what it is. And I'll say, can you tell me one good thing he's done? And they look so perplexed. They look so confused. They can't see because they don't allow their eyes to open. Because if they allowed their eyes to open, they would see what Donald Trump did. Do you know that Donald Trump got 14% of the African-American vote this year? The highest Republican turnout for a presidential candidate from the African-American community ever? Do you know Donald Trump signed into law the reform bill, the prison reform bill? Freed prisoners who were serving time because of laws that were made by Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Shifty Schiff, Schumer the Boomer, and the rest of these clowns in Washington, D.C. I'll even throw in the Bush boys. They did it too. Mitt Romney, the political prodigy, and all the rest of them. Because see, they get around this ring and they play together in the sandbox of corruption. That's what you have for politics in America. In America, you know what I can tell you this? The people who sit at diners, the people who you bump into at the gas station or at the local bar, or you're in the line to go get your pizza. Yeah, real Americans eat pizza. You know what they're thinking right now? On all levels. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. You know what they're thinking? They're thinking, we've had enough. I've had enough of what's going on in our country. And there is an uprising. There's uprising coming, folks, across this country that people are not going to understand. I talked about it last week. What last week looked like to me during the live coverage that we had right here from the studio with the call-ins from the folks who were down there on the ground, peacefully protesting. It was an energy that I don't think I've ever experienced before. So much, I think I pinched a nerve in my neck. I swear to God, true story. If you guys follow me, you'll see me twisting around. I was so tense last week from the reporting the truth as we saw it that I got so emotional because I love my country. And I'm not afraid to sit out in front of this conversation, even if you hate me for it. Because I want to inspire you to come and talk to me, talk to us. If we don't start talking together as people, we're going to lose control. And the next generation and the generation after that, it's just going to slip away. And I'm going to tell you, the time right now is now to stand up. You need to stand up. President Donald Trump needs to acknowledge that he will not be the president in 2021 after the inauguration of Joe Biden. He needs to accept it. And the people who support him, and if his plan is to run again, he needs to go and plot a plan to win the presidency. And it can be done. I can tell you it can be done easy. Here's a simple plan. 80 million supporters, donate $100 each. It's a very simple mathematical game. You're talking about $7-something billion comparison to about $1.9 billion that was spent this year. He can win because he'll get that kind of donations. And he will. That's going to be the change in the game 4 years from now. But think about it, folks. Donald Trump needs to walk away. He needs to take the game elsewhere. The impeachment trials should not take place. It's a scam on the American people. It is a scam for political control, admitted by AOC. We need to stop him from running for office again. See, we fall for this each time, and we justify it by party politics. You know, there was a time where I would hear a Republican conversation, and I needed to defend the Republican point, no matter what. Those days are done, man. They're as corrupt and stinky ass as the Democrats. And I'm sorry. And if I'm upsetting you, I'm sorry. But I feel an obligation. I have a platform. I have experience. And I have an issue. My issue is the corruption in this country has been provided to the politicians, the political elite, the censorship news corporate media, and the cooperation with Hollywood, and the cooperation between all these different organizations come together under one like this one segment of the population that's affected. The Bill Gates, all these people, Fauci. We can go down the list. Guys, why do we keep letting it happen? Wouldn't you like to wake up tomorrow and realize, you know what? We have people that actually serve us in office in our government. And I believe in our government. I think it's the finest structured government in the country. I also believe that corrupt people have figured a way out. When you talk about corruption, and there's lots of great lobbyists, and I have lots of lobbyists who are very good friends of mine, and I'm not criticizing all lobbyists, but the lobbyists, the dark money, the involvement of people in government that can push and persuade the voting or the lawmaking process is gross. It's gross. It's wrong. I mean, look at the 5,000 pages in this most recent stimulus package that did not include the $2,000 for the American people who need it the most. Yet they gave billions and billions and billions of dollars to other foreign aid during a time when they came together to vote for American stimulus. The corruption in this country is sickening. And unless we can get together, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, independents, unaffiliated, people that don't care, you need to get together and have a conversation. You need to realize, I might disagree with a few things, but I want to challenge you this. I've lived by a rule of success in life, and it was taught to me in the prison. I was in the prison, that's right. I did 21 years in prison as a correction officer, and I retired. And I can tell you, I learned a lot of the things I use today in my own personal life, my professional life, to be very successful. I use some of the basic skills that you learn in prison. The first skill is 6 out of 10. You know what that is? If I throw 10 topics out there, and 6 out of those 10 topics we agree on, then we're on the same page, man. We ain't got to fight against each other. We'll fight against something else. Now, some of you are going to say, well, the topics might be, well, you could have, Roe versus Wade, and that's a serious topic. Women's rights are a serious topic, but, they get confused often by who? Politicians. See, they create language in these topics to confuse us, to try to bait us, and they do a really good job at it. I look back at 2016 to 2020, and the presidency will be remembered for many things, and I think the dominating memory, the footprint, the footprint that he'll leave behind is going to be the one that the corporate media wants you to know. So you're going to have to look really deep and to see success stories. As I said, the Reform Bill, the Prison Reform Act. And I don't know that, I don't have this pulled up, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to just quote what I remember, is that I also know that each year, the National African American College Association, and I don't know what the actual title is, would go in front of Congress each year and ask for their amount of money, for scholarship money, for people of color to go to college, right? And this racist president, Donald Trump, because he's a racist, he said to this organization, and we can research it if we need to, but we don't really need to. It's just having a conversation. He said to the people, no, I'm going to give you 10 years, and we're going to raise it up by this amount. Take care of business. Stop having to worry about coming back and, all the money planning to come back and ask for. Here you go. Common sense. Washington, D.C. didn't think like that before. We heard a lot about the bad things that corporate media wanted us to hear about the 4 years of this president. Do you remember the wars that took place? We had to have been, I don't know how many wars. How many wars were we in over the last 4 years? You don't know? Because we weren't in any. Did he take out some Iranian, Iraq scumbags? Yeah, good job. Take them out. Who cares? Care about America. He didn't put this country in conflict. Less soldiers died under his watch. And he told you that's what he was going to do. He's very critical of the Bush administration for sending soldiers across to fight a war. For what? Oil? Control? Think about it, guys. It's time for us as Americans to wake up. 2016 to now. We have an impeachment trial. Now after this incident that took place last week. What happens with First Amendment rights? The President of the United States of America. The platforms that were outlined in what we posted up there, if you can bring it back up, Slay, with the First Amendment rights. Those very words are not guaranteed to every American. In fact, they're certainly not guaranteed to the President of the United States. He's off Twitter. They've banned him on every platform. They shut down Parler. They shut down other sites that seem to motivate speech. Not speech that some like, not speech that everyone agrees with, not speech that is not abnormal, but it's speech about and against a system, a systematic system of control. And it's about bringing people together commonly to keep conversations going. But what have they done? In cooperation with corporate media, social media, and the political insiders, they've silenced the president. Guys, I'm going to tell you what this is doing. The Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Joe Biden, and the new Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. You have a chance to fix this. You need to come out in front of the American people, and you need to stop the nonsense. See, because your conversation, your continuous conversation of trying to convict since 2016 is obvious to everyone. There's not a fool among us that believes this has anything to do with more than anything but control by party politicians. We see it for what it is. Joe Biden, if you really mean you want to bring unity to this country, you need to step in front of the American people. As the president, you're going to be the president. For how long, we don't know. You need to stand in front of the American people, and you need to bring this conversation to the forefront. We lived as a broken people for the last 4 years because some guy kicked the doors in at the Scumbag Saloon in Washington, D.C., and exposed the scum for what they are. Guys, do you think for one moment that is feasible for this guy to be attacked by everybody around him? He called media fake news. Why do you think they go at him so? Now, am I justifying any of this? Am I saying to you that this is not something that I should be, trying to go crazy about? But I'll tell you this. This conversation today with News Rocky is all about identifying the truth versus fiction. The truth is, we live in a corrupt society of political controlled party politicians. And until we can wake up and see it for what it is, we're going to continue to battle this each and every day. You'll continue to lose your rights. You'll continue to wonder why I ever supported that party or that politician. You'll continue to ask yourself, where do we go from here? You'll continue to question the system. But when will it be too late? When you've given all the control to them? Guys, this is News Rocky. This is my rant day. We're going to wind it down here. I want to tell you that I hope you stayed with me the whole show. I hope you appreciated my commentary today. I'm frustrated, I'm disappointed, and I'm optimistic. I'm going to live with optimism. My optimism is that we, Democrats and Republicans, black and white, Hispanic, Asian, I don't care where you're from in the world, you come to the melting pot, and we're Americans. We need to bring it together as Americans. We need to be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee and be able to disagree about a topic, but not hate each other because of one party or the other. I'm optimistic. and I hope you are as well. Thank you for tuning in to News Rocky today. Tomorrow, tune in, same time. We'll be bringing you some great information. I believe tomorrow's show is going to be with Bob Stefanowski, the former gubernatorial candidate for the state of Connecticut, who I hope is planning to run again. We'll get into that with Bob in tomorrow's show. Thank you again for getting in the ring. News Rocky.